Quick sound check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Quick sound check. 1, 2, 1, 2. That's working. Right. Okay. So we're going to be continuing with our Freeplay development today. We're doing. Yesterday we did some bits and bobs. What did we do yesterday? We put the food in underground and we tried to run the level a few times. Ended up with a few bugs. I haven't fixed them all. A few of them actually have been fixed, and if we do run the level today, you'll see that a few of them have had fixes. However, there are still a few of those bugs, but I'm not going to be tackling them today as such. I'm going to be working on player setup, as I've mentioned in social media. So, at the moment, I'm going to be doing the point in the game at which the player starts the free play mode. So, like the free play menu. We'll be at that point. We'll be deciding the starting locations for the player. I'm also going to be putting stuff in place for future stuff, which is enemy ant colonies. Now they're not going to be in the game on the first iteration of it. A few bugs. Ha ha ha. Yes, it's the joke that keeps on giving. Quite a few bugs. But yeah, I'll be putting the basics in place for that. So let's have a look. Okay, so what we're looking at here is free play setup. So this is the point at which the player clicks the start button for free play. So this is where it saves it checks if the colony name's been set. So if it's equal to nothing, it gives a warning at that point. It checks if you've selected a unit. If you wood ants, it checks if you've selected your unit option. Because at the moment they're the only species with a unit option. They won't be in the end. Leaf critters are going to have a unit option as well, and so will each species brought in afterwards. It's checking another one with the same name doesn't exist. It's checking 1,000 entries. By the way, if you have 1,000 save games, you'll break the system. So try and keep your save games to less than 1,000 of them. We've also got some. Okay, so that's the warning for if it finds one. If it doesn't find one of the same name, it creates a free play save. We'll be coming to that in a moment. Add stuff in. It should also create a setup. Link to colony save. So this is all the stuff it's putting into the free play save. Chosen difficulty, blah blah blah. Okay, so this is make free play setup. It says replay setup because the capital F. Hello Crimson Sabers. The capital F it actually assumes is a float, so it just removes it in blueprints for some reason. But ignore that. So yeah, it creates that. Then it saves game to slot. Then it creates the level setup. Okay, so it's actually free play setup that we're going to get all this information from. So it's extra stuff that I want to add to this Freeplay setup. Now I'm not going to put it in the Freeplay setup box. It's going to have its own thing called colony setup. So I'll be looking at that. Okay, so this is what a lot of today is going to look like. Welcome back to Visual Studio. And we'll be looking at the variables and stuff in here for a lot of today. So here, this is something I've added this morning, colony setup, and it's an F player setup, which is something else I added this morning. F player setups have a colony ID, a colony color, a colony species, and a unit option. There's one more thing I want to add into this. And I actually want to make a new type for it. Like a what do you call them? Yeah, that's it. An enum. It won't surprise me if call this player control type. Official Gasu. Hi, I've heard that there is Freeplay coming to this game. Do you know when it comes? At the moment, I can just say when it's ready. You can follow these live streams to see how it's progressing. At the moment, the first Freeplay map is the actual map itself is pretty much done. I think Matt wants to make a few more cosmetic changes. The basics of the game play are all in place for the first iteration. Like things like colony species selecting and that sort of thing. What's not done yet is saving. Saving's not been. I haven't touched saving in Freeplay yet. So. Although I get the feeling like it might be worth me bringing it out without saving to start with, just so people can get their hands on it. I know, just so people can get their hands on it quicker, and then we'll bring saving into it shortly afterwards. Okay, so player button none. Where was I? Player setup. Okay, so what did I even call that? E-player. Oh, damn it. E-player control type. probably default that to none. A lot of these errors will fix themselves as soon as I build. Okay, so now we've got one sec. Now we've got that in place. I haven't actually changed anything in Freeplay setup. Oh, yeah, I did. Either way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build that whilst thinking about the next thing. Mostly because I want it to come up with any errors now. There's going to be errors. There is totally going to be errors now. I've basically changed the way... General Kenobi. I've changed the way players are input into this to allow for like positions for the bots and things. And I haven't accounted for them at all yet. So, yeah. There's going to have to be some information about the map as well. I'm not quite sure where to put that yet. Maybe it just needs to be in data files. But basically things like how many players can be on a map. Stuff like that. The game needs to know it when it's setting up Freeplay. Because it doesn't want to try and set up a bot if there's no slot for a bot slot. So I've got a question in my head now. Do I want to allow... Do I want to decide on this player's starting position? Because the player's going to be given a random starting position out of the 4 possible ones. Do I want to decide that when the game launches or when you get into the level? So if I decide it when you get into the level, we could potentially do that then rather than worry about it. Although no, a lot of the setup needs to be done beforehand because the player's going to need to decide how many bots they're including. Right, here's the errors. Okay, so here we go. This is where I was expecting it as well in Freeplay game mode, and this is where it's going to deal with the level starting and that. So in here is where I'm going to give everything its starting position. For now, I'm just going to assume there's 4 player slots in the game because there is only one Freeplay map. However, I think ultimately this should be done through data. So there should be map data, which includes stuff, for example, like a description of the map, how many players there are on the map, maybe the size of the map, basically some data that so when there's multiple Freeplay maps, the player has information that they can choose between them. But for now, I'm just going to assume there's 4. Okay, so I need to check this file out. One moment. Freeplay game mode. Okay. So, with this file checked out, let's fix it, shall we? Okay. So, this is what happens when the level loads. This also includes what happens when you're resuming a level as well. But it does something. It checks in several places here. It does a check to see if it's the first time setup. Let's see if we can find it. Okay, so there's a check, for example, the first time setup, and that's setting up the species. But a lot of this stuff happens anyway, doesn't need the first time setup. Okay, so here it's checking if a free play game exists. And it's not set to none. Yeah, so it's checking the gameplay exists. So yeah, that's fine. Free play level setup. Temp free play, save, game setup. Okay, team colours. So what's temp colony ID? Temp colony ID is set here. So it's just getting the colony ID of the first player. It's not exactly what I was hoping for. Now what we need to do is we need to get so where does it use that? It first uses it here. Okay, what we're going to need to do is instead of getting this temp colony ID just from the first player, yeah, this is going to get complicated. Because what I need to happen is I need the first player to be put into the correct colony ID based on what I've saved it to be. So I need to actually find out the point where the players are assigned their colony IDs. Oh no, where they're assigned them there. This is going to get tricky. So, where calls this? It's not in here. No, I know where this gets called. This gets called from. This gets called from normal game mode, which is its parent. Right, so what it actually does is it restores it runs this restore level save for each underground tile grid. Guess that makes sense. So each player is going to have their own stuff restored separately. Right, I need to see where it. Right, this will be it. This is how it's plugging people into their starting positions. Let's have a look at this. Really, I want to find out how they're given their pawn, because the pawn basically decides which colony they're part of. Hey John, got some time to pop in and see how you're doing? Alright, David. How I'm doing is swimming through code and trying to backtrack to see how something is assigned. So it's going to be a complicated day, I think. And I think it's going to need another coffee. So I'm going to be back in a minute. You have a stare at this code and see if you can work it out for me. We all figured it out, yeah? Been dragged away by the ants. Okay, right. What's going on? Where am I? I'm in controller.h, which is just Unreal code. This isn't actually our code. So there's this get pawn thing. But this to game. So what it's doing is it's saying if the player's got a pawn, a pawn is the start is basically where the player's camera. That is the player's pawn. Oh, hang on. If get pawn is equal to null, so the player doesn't have a pawn, and player can restart, then restart player. Okay. Okay. So the player doesn't have a pawn. Okay, so I'm going to have a look in this restart player and see what that does. Okay, so there is a restart player in Freeplay game mode. New player is equal to null, or is pending kill. In Freeplay mode, we randomly find a pawn to possess. So this is where I'm coming in. This is where I'm changing this. Okay, so at the minute it's just completely randomly finding a pawn and plugging me in if I don't already have a pawn. Now we want to change that to be based on the level setup. I'm glad I found this. This is my in. The confusion's over. Oh, but I think I'm going to stick some music on. Sorry, you can't hear my music because it will give us a copyright strike on YouTube. But I advise you play some of your own favourite music whilst I stream. Ooh, chilled beats. Chilled beats sounds good. Yeah, play that playlist. Fleetwood Mac. Yeah. I think I've just got chilled beats, so mine's gonna be quite ambient, I think. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to find the pawn with the colony ID that we link it to. So essentially, this is a new player. I'm assuming we can cast this to an EOTU player. Well, it doesn't look like it's actually doing it anywhere here. Right, I actually need to get the level set up in a similar way as we got it as it's got in this thing, this whole messy, jumbled up mess. So I don't need to do this here. Right, level setup save is something that's done no matter what EOTU game you've got, and it deals with that beforehand. We're then basically going to check if it's free play. If it's not free play, we're going to give an error message. That's fine. Yeah, we're looking forward to bringing the leaf cutters in. You're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, yeah. Okay, so. So we've checked that the free play game exists here. Although, I don't think I need the formic save. The formic save is if you're... Yeah, we don't need that. Temp free play save. Okay, so yeah, it's doing a check here on free play save to load. Then we need to set this temp free play save. Damn it. It's being annoying. I don't know what it's doing. Right, here I'm loading the game. So here I've checked that it exists. So I'm checked that its game type is free play, and that the free play name of the free play game is not none, and the game actually exists. Then we're gonna load it. Copy and paste coding. Okay, then with this temp free play save, we're going to have a look at the thing I added in earlier. Oh, I know what the problem is. What's it called? That's formic save's not what I meant. Free play save. I think it's just called U free play save. Yep. I'm just casting it to a free play save so I can set it. Okay, so then we can operate on it as it's a free play save. Right, as a free play save, we can take a look at the player setup. Or is it players? Or is it? Oh, God, my memory. Free play save.h. Colony setup. Good job, I checked. Right, so we're going to need to loop through these. Are we? No, the first entry in this should be the human player. Should it? God, this gets confusing when you're trying to think of how the bots are going to interact with it as well. At the minute, it's restarting a player that's just a new player. The new player could be anyone. This is all. This is basically the steps that the game goes through when it starts, and there's all sorts of stuff going on here. But at the moment, all I'm trying to do is this is a new player being restarted on the map. And I'm trying to instead of the player just being shoved in a random colony, I'm trying to make them put in a specific colony, and then I'm going to control the random element of it elsewhere. Because we want them to start in a random colony, but it's not colony setup. Oh no, it is. It is. Shut up, John. So this is actually slightly confusing. Slightly. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at new player. See, there's some issues here I don't have to solve at the minute, and I don't want to, but it will help later if I do. So what does new player have on it? Does it have some sort of identification or anything like that? I mean, okay, let's have a look at what this is. What do they have on them? Okay, so they got a pawn, so that is where they're going to be starting. But we're about to give them a new pawn now. They do have a character, but we don't need that. Player state. Position and rotation. I don't think they have any sort of identifier on them. Controller.h. God, they've got all sorts on them, haven't they? So rotation is player controller, is local player controller, is local controller, clear player controller, possess, unpossessed, blah blah blah. I don't think there's any sort of identifier on them. So I guess I'm gonna just have to deal with them as they come in. So, like, the first one gets assigned to the first pawn. The next one gets assigned to the next pawn, etc., etc., etc. So we just need to put them in order. So I'm going to need to do a check to see if the pawn is Freeplay game mode. I'm going to have to do a check to see if the pawn's currently possessed. Now, can I do that? I don't actually know if I can do that. Let me go quickly through. John, is programming hard or is it easy for you? That's not a very good question. Even veteran programmers will encounter difficulties based on many factors. What's going on here is I'm going through a mix of R code, which was written by someone else, and Unreal Engine's code, which was obviously written by someone else. It was written by Unreal Engine. So I'm basically digging back through that to make sure our stuff ties in properly with what they need us to tie in with. Because if you don't tie it in properly, you lose a lot of functionality of Unreal Engine. And as we know, Unreal Engine has a lot of functionality. Okay. So, so down here is where it's done it before. This is actually probably what we want. We want something very similar to this. So what it's doing is it's looking for all of the pawns in the map. We can actually use that. I'm gonna comment this out because we don't actually want this to happen, but we want some of it to happen. So I'll delete this once I'm done with it. I don't want to jumble the array up anymore. There's no need for that. What's being passed in? I believe it's just the player controller that's being passed in, isn't it? It's not happy with me. Oh yeah, I know why, it's just this. Yeah. This is going to take some thinking. So I'm going to turn the music volume down. So we actually want to get, this colony setup here. Problem is that I haven't got any way of linking the colony setup with the number that it's in the array, and I can't just change this because I believe this restart player function is actually a proper Unreal function. I believe player controller does actually have a colony ID on it. Getting complicated. We will get this right. Okay, so restart player is called from... Where's it called from? It's called from EOTU game mode. Passes in a player controller. I'll come back to the chat in a bit. At the minute, I'm going to need to really concentrate to get through this. I need to make sure the players are in the right controllers. See, at the minute I've got an issue where it's essentially looping through all of these player controller iterators and then passing each one individually into this restart player. However, I've got a list, I've essentially got a list somewhere of how I want the level set up. So where I want the human player plugged into, where I want the bot players plugged into. There's going to be a list of that. However, this restart player doesn't have that list. And all it's got is a player controller. I mean, what I could do, this is an option, is essentially each time it runs restart player, it adds one to the an integer. So it knows how many which players have been started already. Funnily enough, we do want an element of randomness in this as well. No, we don't. No, not at this point. Randomness will have been decided by this point. So none of this needs to be random. This needs to be quite specific. Okay, so yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Is in Freeplay game mode, I'm gonna add an integer that just records how many players have been started. Because this is going through the player controller iterator. So this is just going through the player controllers that exist. We are definitely going to hit an issue here, and I'm going to need Matt to help me fix it. I think we're going to end up with a crash. I think it's because it's not expecting there to be a colony without a player controller in it. So we are going to hit a crash somewhere. But I'll speak to Matt about that when we get there. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that approach. If it goes horribly wrong, then we'll deal with that as it comes. Okay, so I need freeplay game mode.h. You function. Okay, I need to check that out. 1 sec. So, oh, it's going to state, that's where the problem is. This doesn't... Only needs to be a small int. Doesn't need to be accessed from anywhere other than this, so that's all it needs. Doesn't even need to be public, actually, it can be private. I think all of those can be private, actually, so I'll leave them private. However, I do want to set this. So the first colony it's going to start is colony 0. Colony 0 in the array will be the player's colony, the player that set up the game. Ignore that. Come back to that later. Okay, back to restart player. Okay. So that's getting all the pawns. Now, I believe the let's work this out for the player. So the player is going to be the first one in this array that's being dealt with. So where am I looking? It's this, actually. Colony setup. I think we need to loop through these, actually. All that's doing is that's looping through the colony setup. Actually, we don't need to do that. We need to use that integer we just used. We don't need to loop through it. We just need to look at the one that's okay, so instead I'm just going to do an if statement to check that this actually exists to start with. That integer we just made, static colony. Oh yeah, I know what you mean. This is going to produce a... One sec. Oh no. Okay. Right, this is just a check then to see if this exists. It's important that I do this because there's a very high possibility that it doesn't. So basically, it's going to check that the level setup has this in the array. If the answer is yes, we can safely speak to it. So I can now safely speak to this. Okay, so there we are. We've got all the information that we need. So there, what we have is the colony ID that of the pawn that we want to jump into. Now, next I want to find the colony ID of. I want to find the pawn with that colony ID, which I believe comes from this. believe that's just a... Yeah, it's another... Okay, I need to actually have a look at this in practice. So I'm going to... Give me 1 second. I'm going to open our Empires of the Undergrowth project and have a look at the pawns that are there. I don't think they know which but I'll have a look. I'll see what the pawns know essentially, and then decide if I can talk to them through that or whether I'm going to need something else. But while the engine's booting up, I'm going to come back to chat for a minute. Let's whiz through some of this. Fireworks. Doing 3D render logo now. Smoke, what a pain. Made embarrassing blunder yesterday. Called Ever Smile Smilesville. Ever Smile. Smilesville. Surprise stream. Alright, Seraphine. I only do when I put the streams up. I just do Facebook and Twitter. Mike tends to do the Steam announcements. Yeah, this is just an extra stream anyway. Right. I need to have a look at the Freeplay level. So, give me 1 second. I'll flick us over to Unreal. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be streaming for, Seraphine, but yeah, I might still be here. So I think basically I'm going to stream until I figure out this the whole player problem. But it's quite a complicated problem, but it's important for the Freeplay setup. Right, it's opening that map at the minute, so I'll be back in a minute. Just gonna nip the loop. these player pawns. Right, so it is an EOTU pawn. So there's a chance it'll know what colony ID it is. We can always hope. Yeah! Okay, so I should be able to cast that to an EOTU player pawn. Back to Visual Studio. Music back. It's live. How's your game going? What am I doing? Don't want to be here. Yes, us. Use. Okay, so the colony ID. Essentially, I need to get the pawn with the right colony ID. So here is where we loop through the pawn. So let's bring that inside here, so we're not doing it if we don't have one. Okay, so I actually don't want to cast it to that. I want to cast it to a... pawn. I think that's what I want to cast it to you. Oh, it's already been done? So basically here I'm just looking to see if the colony ID matches the one on the started colony. A big ass post last week detailing where we are in and how we're planning to proceed. Essentially, we had the basics of nearly all the mechanics down. That's good. Some major ones still off. Some aren't a priority quite yet, like the overworld. But the mechanics are working quite rough. You've got to break existing features, push things to a better state. Yep. For example, we have workers working at a fairly good level, but now we're introducing some more complex creature AI. Yeah, we've rebuilt the AI for the ants multiple times during the process. So it started off very specific AI, but then the AI kind of branched out into a more general one, so all creatures can share the same AI. So if you make a change, to something, you don't have to propagate it through loads of different creatures' AI. There are some creatures which don't play by the rules, such as the funnel web spider, uh, various other things. The antlions, when they come in, won't be playing by the rules either. They'll have their own AI, but yeah, I understand. Yeah. We've got a plan for the mechanics of how the antlions are going to work. I think it's quite good as well. So there is a defined way that you can defeat them. So pawn's colony ID is equal to started colony ID. So basically here we're saying that if the pawn that we found, if its colony ID is equal to the current colony we're trying to set up, then we add it in. Then we break out of the loop. I think that's essentially what we want to do. So we found the right pawn there. We don't want to jumble anything up. And once we've done that, okay, so hang on. If this free play game exists, okay, it shouldn't do anything if the free play game doesn't exist. The only thing I'm going to actually tell it to do is increase this value that we've got. Where is it? It's in like square brackets somewhere. Some like started colony. Oh, it's there. So that's just incrementing started colony. Okay, this is wrong. I was wondering why it was doing that. Parenthesis error. That should be right. Okay. So I believe this is right now. So this essentially should assign the current one, the one that it's currently looking at, or the next one along, to the pawn with its matching with the matching ID. So reading back, I have some terrible issues with typos today. I haven't. Don't worry. I'm the worst for typos. I can type fast, but the result is not always pleasant. Some typos have made it thoroughly into the game now. Like variable names. It's too late for them. Okay, so that's done. Next, we need to go back up to the Shmi. Okay, so this restore level save is done after the players have been put into their correct pawns. So once the players have been shoved into the correct pawns, this all happens. Okay, so things like colony color now needs to come from the new colony, the new array. So in order to find that, we need to know which order they're in the array. Because this will be going through them based on an in-game thing, the tile grid. I'm tempted to put the player data into the tile grid as it does it. I believe that's where it lives anyway. So as we start the player in it, we put the information about the information about the colony itself in. See, at the minute, what it's doing is it's actually it's setting the colony color on the tile grid based on but we've no need to do that here. We can actually do that when we set the pawn, I think. Right, coming back to chat. But yeah, if you're curious about anything more detailed, let's see. Digging, claiming room, placement of furniture, place down. The economy works. And with gold, we haven't gone to mana and spells yet. Mana and spells were that was brought in Dungeon Keeper 2, wasn't it? A lot of work, pathfinding, quite robust. Yeah, we're using the Unreal Engine's pathfinding for. Although we on top of that we added a layer of avoidance. We did our own avoidance. It's Unreal Engine's pathfinding, so I think it's just A star, but. Mastered a lot. Yeah, just created inference systems. I'm not sure if you're familiar with senses of an agent. Yeah. I know that stuff. It's not something we've used, but right. Okay, so I think I'm gonna have to. here, there's a few things here which are set. Right, so this is colony colour. That no longer needs to be dealt with here. I can deal with that in the pawn. So give me 1 minute. I'm just going to write this down as I'm going. It's a list of things I'm moving from here into the moment where the pawn's done. So it's essentially everything that happens in the this. So it's going to be colony ID we use to find it. Colony colour is set from the pawn. Colony species, I guess, can be set from the pawn. Okay, we've got an issue here. No, colony. Because at the minute it uses. There's actually something else I'm going to need to set on this, which is colony species. If it's Formica erecta, it needs to come with the name of the Formica erecta colony that it is. So it's something I need to add into this actually. How's that currently dealt with? Formica colony. So here's the stuff about species. See, I think we can set that on the tile. See, it sets it all on the tile grid here, which I'm fine doing, but I'm gonna need to. I'm gonna need to save this other piece of data as well. Which is, it's not colony name, it's, come on John, find it. I think it's here. Colony setup equals temp formic save colony setup. Huh. Oh, right, yeah, temp formic save. This is it. This is what we're after. Formic save to load. So colony colour, colony species. I don't know why I'm writing this down. It's all in here, but essentially I need an F string in here, colony species. What did I call it? In here, formic save. Let's call it formic save. Essentially, if you're a Formica erecta colony, this is going to be that piece of information. Set up. The only thing about this is I have to change so much of it at the same time because none of it works until it all works. Right, instead of this... Oh, this is a bit awkward. Awkward. Essentially on the tile grid, because I'm going to be putting all the rest of this on the tile grid. Essentially on the tile grid, I also need to have this formic save thing. Sorry, distracted for a minute there. We'll get this. We'll get this. Okay, so I need. I'll be back. I need to check out the underground tile grid, because that holds a lot of the game info. And someone else has got it checked out. Yay! Well, there goes that. I can't do anything with that. I could do everything else but that, I guess. I know what Matt's doing at the minute. He's working on the tunnels, tunneling the tunnels out from underground, I think. I know, he could be working on anything though with the underground tile grid, because the underground tile grid's become a storage space for stuff to that colony. Okay, my mind's going around in circles at the minute. But I can do everything but this. So I'll write this down, because write that down. So there might be the unit option as well. This is not simple, unfortunately. Right, I need to start moving this stuff over then. Okay, so when the player restart happens, at this point we want to copy some stuff over. So this is the point where we found the pawn and we decided what that it's going in there. At that point, what we need to do is we need to get the game state, actually. Let me get the game state the same way as it's been got up here. There we are. I'm going to need that. I'm going to do it as soon as I'm sure that we're going for it. So therefore we can say GS get tile grid by colony ID. Okay, so this is the tile grid. We essentially want to set multiple things on this, so IntelliSense isn't working on me. Thanks, IntelliSense. Okay, well, I can copy it from above. We've got a minor issue here, in that the unit variant there's a debate going on in my head whether how much of this I want to move into the pawn spawning area. See, I could just move all of this into it, but the entirety of the colony setup could be done within the pawn spawning instead of up here. There's no particular reason why it shouldn't be done in the other one, because all I'd be doing in the other one is, in the pawn setup, is storing stuff so that when it got to this point it could do it. So maybe I just need to move all of this over there. So where does that go down to? Where does former carrier name come from? Let's press that. This is a lot to think about, because I'm at the same time I'm thinking that Eventually, when we have enemy colonies, the enemy colonies could be one of your Formicarium colonies. So you could have them set up like in a Formicarium colony. So you could have multiple of your own Formicarium colonies. It's actually quite complicated. Don't think I'm going to manage to get through this all today on the stream. And each one could have its own, yeah. So let's take what I think I can move over to the other place. This is spawning the queens. They could totally argue that spawning the queens makes more sense to be done in the reload or the restore level save. Yeah, I see how things you go with. Or is it? I've done it in a jiffy. Oh wait, it's quite complicated. Make it 3 jiffies. Yeah. I'm still deciding an approach, really. As soon as I've got I've decided an approach, I'll be whizzing through the code. But at the moment, right, I'm gonna try just moving code over, chunk by chunk, into the pawn stuff. So. Put that with game state. Assuming you get tile grid by it returns a tile grid. It's just because the bloody telesense isn't working there. So I don't need to cast that to anything. Yeah, of course. We can't actually get the tile grid until we've got the on. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to add these variables in just for the... just for the sake of ease. Okay, so I don't need that expression because I don't need to check if it's the right colony ID because I know it will be. And now we don't need to... Right, the colony colour needs to be taken from... this. There's no else if. These colony colours will have been set up beforehand. Right, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining me, and good luck with things with your game. See you around. Okay, so now the colony colour's being brought in from that. What's next? Next, we're moving on to species stuff, aren't we? Back up to the red. Now we check the foreign carrying colony data and apply it. Right. No longer does this. If it's the player's colony, we set the species. We'll set it anyway. But I'm gonna take this. Take everything in this if statement. And then we'll adapt it. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so I'm no longer need this if statement, so it's not if this is the player's colony, which was what that was doing before. Let's get rid of that. If temp formic save and temp formic save first time setup. Okay, so what that's doing is checking if it's a gene thief colony. First time setup. I think I'm going to end the stream at 1:30, by the way. So at basically, I think this is going to take more concentration than I can split between stream. So at 12:30, I'm gonna end the stream, and then by the time I do the next stream, this should all be done. Okay, so that was before checking if there was a formic save with that name in it. However, there's actually something. Temp Freeplay save. Okay, so I essentially need to do to get this. Just do something here. Sorry, colony setup. That's done. Sorry. Okay, so if it's a gene thief colony, and formic save does not equal on, and it's the same as this, and the save exists. Okay, so under these circumstances, we've got a gene thief colony. However, I can actually approach this a different way. Damn it. Okay. So essentially what I'm doing here... It's not happy with that. Oh, sorry. What I'm doing here is I'm just checking if it's a Gene Thief colony, and if the formic save exists, then I'm going to save something to this temp formic save. Then I check if the temp formic save exists underneath. This code underneath now should work again. Here it's doing the check to see the unit options and that. These need to be taken from temp Freeplay save, colony setup, colony color. Today's been a very heavily in the code day. Tile grid by colony ID. Losing concentration on what I'm trying to achieve. It's this that I need. Okay, so now I've moved over. So I've currently moved over the color and the species setup. What's next? There's still some red up there, which means it's still trying to do something that it can't. Right, this is the class. Okay, so I actually think I still want the spawning of stuff to be dealt with up here. However, what it should be looking at, instead of looking at that stuff in the save, it should actually be looking at it on the tile grid, which I believe gets passed in here. Yeah. So what we're looking for here is, instead of that, we want think that's what we're looking for. Let me just double check that. So down here, that should have been set with this latest one. Yeah, worker species and queen species both get set. So yeah, that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking to replace, all these references to colony species. Just take them from queen species. I'm not sure why I've got this separate now, because it's essentially the same thing, only it happens if colony ID on the tile grid you're looking at is equal to temp colony ID, which in here I believe is the first player. I don't think we need that anymore. So let me comment it out for now, just in case. But I'm probably just going to delete this. Okay, so essentially all we've got there then is it's just setting these classes based on that. Okay. What else? Okay, the reason it's got an issue with me here is because it thinks there's a reason. It's probably right. It thinks that temp queen class could be nothing. So what, instead of an else if here, I'm just going to make it be gene thief. If it's not a black ant or a wood ant, it's going to be gene thief. Should be happy with me now. Still doing something, it's churning away at the bottom here. Just going to get the nip. What's going on? It looks like it's happy with me. Right. Okay. Okay, so yeah, it's happy with me now. She looks like there's no more errors. However, I'm not convinced I've dealt with everything yet. So let's have a quick look in. Okay, so colony ID, that has been dealt with. Colony colour, that has been dealt with. Colony species, that has been dealt with. Formic save, that... Right, I need to pass Formic save into the... No, I don't. I changed that, didn't I? Formic save is used... Yeah, okay, so that's dealt with. Right, unit option and control type. Okay, so control type is new. In fact, I need to bring that in pretty soon. Because if control type set to bot or none, it shouldn't be starting a player like that. I believe there's a separate thing for starting a bot. Okay, so I believe, because we did we moved the whole of the colony setup into here, so that should include the variants. Yeah, it does. So that's actually dealt with. Okay, so this the bot thing needs to be checked here, I think. I'm going to have to check with Matt how bots are dealt with. So I'll do that in there. I believe, other than that though, this is actually done. I now need to hook this in from the other side. So the actual, when you press the start button on the game, that button needs to, there's a couple of things that needs to set up at that point. For now, all that should be is giving the player a random starting location. That should be the only new thing. It's alright, I'm about to close the stream anyway, Torbjorn. Good to have you with us again. And thanks very much for joining. And on that juncture, actually, I'm just going to end the stream. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be off stream. Bye. Off stream, I'm going to be setting up the all that stuff that I've just added in. I'm going to be setting that up to run in the actual game, and giving the player a random starting location. And then at that point, we should be able to start a free play game. With various settings, which gives us a random starting location properly. I expect it to crash at first, and it's going to be a bit of a headache me sorting that crash out. Either way, this was a bonus stream. Look for the next stream coming up on Monday, which is when the next planned stream is. So Monday, and then probably the Friday following that. So yeah, next week, Monday and Friday, look for streams. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again next time in the Undergrowth. Hopefully with something more visual to look at than just pages of code, which is what today has been. But game dev isn't always visual. Right, see you next time.